AFN Television News, compiled from the major American networks, wire services, and public affairs offices.
Good evening. An administration official is saying that William Ruckelshaus, a former EPA chief, has agreed in principle to return as head of the agency. More than a decade ago, then President Richard Nixon had named Ruckelshaus to be the first head of the EPA. According to the source, officials are checking to be sure there's no conflict of interest in the former agency head, who is currently an executive with Weyerhaeuser, a timber products firm. Meanwhile, President Reagan has urged a House-Senate Conference Committee to act quickly to get details on a multi-billion-dollar jobs bill ironed out and on his desk. ABC's Dan Quartz takes a look at the Senate version of that bill to find out if it'll really help solve the problem of unemployment.
In the depths of the Great Depression, massive public works programs put millions of unemployed Americans back to work. By comparison, the jobs bill passed by the Senate today is a Band-Aid at best. For example, experts say that of the $5.1 billion voted, no more than half, or $2.5 billion, will actually be paid out as wages to the unemployed workers hired under the program. The rest will go to other costs of the projects: administration, planning, overhead, and construction materials. If workers are hired for the construction projects at union wages, as they are for most other federally financed work, they'll average about $15 an hour. At that rate, all of the money would only pay about 85,000 people for a year. On the other hand, if all workers were hired at the minimum wage of $3.35 an hour, then as many as 350,000 Americans could be put to work. But since the funds will go largely to expand or speed up existing projects, many under union contracts, average wages are likely to be well above the minimum.
Neither party wants to call it a WPA-like program, something that resembles the WPA in paying a low wage, perhaps a minimum wage, even possibly below the minimum wage, but providing people with useful things they can do in this society and in this economy.
What's more, even if the largest feasible number of people are put to work, they would amount to only 3% of the 12 million Americans officially listed as unemployed. Dan Quartz, ABC News, New York.
By late today, there should be word on how members of Eastern Airlines' largest union feel about the company's latest contract offer. The deal the Machinists Union is considering is the one that was struck just before a strike deadline last weekend. The company says this is its final offer, but the union is asking that members reject the pact. Kathy Evelyn Smith, the woman indicted on murder charges stemming from the death of comedian John Belushi, is in custody in Toronto at this hour. Her attorney says that she'll be fighting efforts to bring her back to the U.S. Besides the murder charge, she faces 13 counts of giving cocaine and heroin to the comedian. Actor-singer Robert Goulet is free on $1,000 bail in California this evening following his arrest for drunken driving. Witnesses say the 49-year-old entertainer hit two parked cars and then left the scene of the accident. Police report that no one was hurt in the mishap. There have been two more indictments handed down in connection with a Massachusetts rape, which has drawn national attention. ABC's John McKenzie reports on the latest suspects.
The four men accused of rape were brought back to court today to hear that they are now charged with aggravated rape. If convicted, the maximum penalty would no longer be 20 years in jail, but rather life. The response was the same.
How do you plead to this indictment, guilty or not guilty?
Also in court today were two men who saw the alleged rape. They too were being charged as accessories. According to the district attorney, Virgilio Medeiros did more than just look.
That he did help to participate in a group that circled the young lady, that he applauded, that he participated in laughter and joking about the incident while the woman was being raped, and indicating to them they should continue on and on, go for it, go for it.
Both men are also alleged to have prevented people from leaving the bar or calling for help. Both pleaded not guilty. While it's believed there were many more onlookers inside Big Dan's Tavern that night, the district attorney said more indictments are unlikely.
And I know that there's a strong feeling of people that because people were there, they didn't do something, that does not make it a criminal act in Massachusetts. The fact that you fail to do something to aid somebody does not make it a criminal act.
The strain on the defendants is now starting to show. This morning, one of the accused was rushed to the hospital, complaining of chest pains. Where and when he and the others will be tried should be known early next month. At least one defense attorney will seek to have the trial moved because of the public furor it's created here. But he concedes there's been so much publicity surrounding this case, he's not sure where he could go to get a fair trial. John McKenzie, ABC News in New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Here in Germany, there were more meetings today between Chancellor Helmut Kohl, Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher, and Bavarian Premier Franz Josef Strauss in an effort to finalize policy and personnel in the new coalition government. The biggest question remaining is whether Strauss will become part of the Kohl ministry and in what capacity. The Soviet Union is out with its fourth threat in 3 days of retaliations against new NATO missiles in Europe. The official news agency TASS says that if the U.S. installs the new missiles, the Soviets will move to impair U.S. security as well. And the American networks are up in arms against a new Soviet policy calling for the screening of all film before it can leave Moscow. Sources say that even the Soviet Foreign Ministry wasn't aware of the announcement before it was made. Jordan's King Hussein says that he'll hold what he calls crucial talks next week with the leader of the PLO, Yasser Arafat. Hussein said at a London news conference that he may soon clarify his position on the Reagan peace initiative. Hussein will be meeting with U.S. envoy Philip Habib later today. AFN Television News will continue with sports and weather coming up next.
If the house doesn't sell soon, and the bills keep coming in, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Maybe Daddy's airplane.
Any unit that calls for help.
Maybe they can.
The Marines and the Italians also have units.
Mrs. Long, this is Mr. Vogel from the Air Force Assistance Fund. Your application was approved for the entire amount.
Oh, thank you.
Please, give a helping hand.
Next time on Ryan's Hope.
Can I get you a cup of tea?
I don't want anything, just Pat.
He's on his way, sweetheart. Would you like to try talking it over with me?
No, Daddy, I can't.
Kirk, what happened to her?
Seneca came over and it ended up upsetting Amanda. Would you mind going upstairs and waiting
Seneca was
until
here? Well, then where's Arlie? Why didn't he bring her back? Is she all right?
Kimberly, I'm sorry. I haven't got time to deal with you right now.
That's Ryan's Hope. Weekdays at 1:40.
If you don't know it already, your poster-based library is much more than just books. Oh, they're still there by the thousands, but your library has added many other ways for you to learn, to be entertained and enlightened. Your library now offers a wide selection of 16mm films, audio cassettes, phonograph records, and 3/4-inch video cassette programs. The titles range from full-length movies to educational courses and children's programs. Like we said, your library is more than just books.
Boxing top sports tonight with the light heavyweight championship being unified again. Michael Speaks entered the ring as the WBA champion and scored a unanimous 15-round decision over Dwight Braxton, who had held the World Boxing Council crown. It was Speaks' jackhammer left jab that kept Braxton at bay most of the fight. Braxton was able to knock down the champ once in the 8th round, but Spinks regained his composure to dominate the final round. Spinks is now undefeated in 26 professional bouts. It was a perfect night for Eastern teams as the first round of the NCAA basketball tournament wound up last night. PFC Ron Brewski has all the details.
Princeton, the Ivy League champion, led the assault on the other parts of the country by surprising Oklahoma State 56-53 in the West Regional. North Carolina State needed double overtime to nip Pepperdine 69-67 in the other West game. In Midwest action, Pat Ewing tallied 19 points and 11 rebounds to help the Hoyas topple Alcorn State 68-63. Iowa got by Utah State 64-59 in the Midwest. In the Mideast action, Michael Brooks hit 4 foul shots in the final minute as Tennessee trimmed Marquette 57-56. And Oklahoma toppled Alabama Birmingham 71-63. In Eastern playoff action, the Orangemen of Syracuse destroyed Morehead State 74-59, and Rutgers knocked off Southwestern Louisiana 60-53. Tonight on AFN Radio, NCAA playoff action continues with East Regional games. Just moments ago, North Carolina tipped off against James Madison, and tonight at 10:35, the UCLA Bruins meet Utah in Western Regional action. PFC Ron Brewski, AFN Sports.
The National Invitation Tournament continued last night as well with a pair of games. Paul Williams pumped in 26 to lead Arizona State past Cal State Fullerton 87-83. And Michigan State made its first ever appearance in an NIT game. A winning one, they dumped Bowling Green 72-71. In the NBA, a battle of the haves and have-nots as the New York Knicks rolled to their 7th straight win. with a 106-100 decision over the Washington Bullets. It was New York's 22nd win in 26 games, while the Bullets dropped 5 behind Atlanta in the battle for the final playoff spot in the NBA's East Conference. PFC Bob Selleck takes a look at the rest of the NBA.
The Celtics snapped their longest losing streak of the season by snapping the New Jersey Nets 116-103. The Atlanta Hawks held the Cavaliers to their lowest point total of the season in beating the Cavs 97-73. The Pistons ended a 4-game losing streak by coming from behind to beat Milwaukee 103-99. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar pumped in 35 as the Lakers dropped Kansas City 109-96. Chicago had no trouble in bumping off Portland 117-101. Seattle smashed the Nuggets' 11-game winning streak, 147-117. And Wally Walker's 20-foot jumper with 4 seconds left gave the Rockets a 122-120 win over Golden State. That's how it went last night in the NBA. PFC Bob Selleck, AFN Sports.
Just 2 games in the NHL last night, both ending by identical scores. Winnipeg proved an ungracious host, banging in 4 goals in the final period to gain a 73 win over Toronto. And the Canucks had 7 different skaters scoring in a 7-3 triumph over Quebec. Finally, American Phil Mayer captured the men's World Cup Giant Slalom Season Championship by winning the final race of the event in northern Japan today. Mayer came from behind in the second run to edge Max Julien of Switzerland for the crown. Central European forecast for tonight and tomorrow looks just about the same. Cloudy skies with rain or drizzle throughout Germany and the Benelux. Overnight lows will range from the high 30s to the mid-40s. Tomorrow's high should reach the mid-50s. Forecast provided by the European Forecast Unit, Kaiserslautern. And finally, the French have always been symbols of fashion and femininity. But now, ABC's Greg Dobbs reports that many French women are fighting mad about what they believe is sexism in advertising.
Thank heaven for little girls.
It's an image many French women may not like, but with which inescapably they've long been stuck. An image ingrained in French society, perhaps until now.
If you start saying, well, it's ingrained in society, you can't change anything.
What some women are trying to change with the help of a proposed law written by the government's Ministry of Women's Rights are advertisements and publications they say degrade and debase them. They ask, what bearing does this woman have on apple juice? What's the connection between this and camembert cheese? In this exhibit that's showing right now here in Paris, feminists are asking, what in the world do seductive women have to do with office furniture, men's windbreakers, letter transfers, copying machines, pullover sweaters?
If you present them as always, well, ready and sometimes even waiting for a man to dominate them, well, in that case, you present them as, well, second-rate beings and not as human beings.
But from advertisers here, there's another point of view. Take blue jeans.
When we want to sell blue jeans for women, we must use a woman.
The ad man for these blue jeans insists that it's this provocative commercial campaign that's made this brand France's 3rd biggest.
It's a question of subjectivity, bad taste and good taste, and beautiful girl and not beautiful girl, and sexy and not sexy.
Advertisers call it sexuality, not sexism. Yet repeated convictions for sexual scenes or language deemed too suggestive or explicit could send them and the manufacturers, if this law is enacted, to jail for up to a year. The proposed law doesn't define provocative, seductive, sexist, or anything else. It would merely allow anyone who believes there is sexism in something they see to take its creators to court. Greg Dobbs, ABC News, Paris.
Then next, stay tuned for UCOM Report. I'm PFC Stan Kosmosky, and for everyone here, have a good evening. Good night.
AFN News is compiled from the major American networks, wire services, and public affairs offices.